Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Strzok is officially off the payroll. But I've got even better news than that. Numbers Guy is back with us. That's right, he's back from vacation. How you doing, Numbers Guy? Did you have a good vacation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet, man. Are you ready to do some numbers? You want to count the Q posts off? Should I start? What do you want to do?
I go first.
Oh, you want to go first?
second.
Oh, okay, you go. How many we got?
1, 2, 3.
That's why you're the best, Numbers Guy. We missed you. Welcome back. That's right, 3 posts. Keep in mind, I'm going to read through these real quick. If you want to skip through the analysis, just click on the timestamp below. Post 1862, 38 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have these 2 completely different flags, except for the one part where they look exactly the same. Fake news equals enemy of the people. If all directions of the echo chamber, MSM in brackets, state the same thing, even if fiction/false, do most people then consider it true? Factual? Direct communication is critical. Who controls the fake news? Why is Antifa allowed to incite violence, wear masks, make threats, carry weapons, and physically harm others who oppose their ideology? Why does Antifa attempt to justify such violence by labeling the challenger as alt-right or Nazi? Why doesn't the left condone such acts of violence and call for an immediate end? Define projection. Define insurance policy. Define warning against attempts to unveil. They prey on emotionally unstable, helpless individuals and use them as pawns in brackets. Then we have a Fox News link. What does Ray know and when will he release it to the public? Does such violence, extremism justify National Guard deployment in the future ahead of planned public releases? Then we have a couple more links here. Military spending bill, smile for the camera, Q. Post 1863. We have this older tweet from Bill Maher. For those who said I was way off comparing Michelle Bachmann at debate on Wednesday with Planet of the Apes, Q says, at Sean Hannity, at Fox News, at The Real Roseanne, do not let this hypocrisy stand. Fight. Much more coming. Q. And excuse me, that came in at 46 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. 1864. 57 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We get the Sara Carter link. Q. Okay, before we begin, I want to say a big, massive thank you to all of you for helping me reach 25,000 subscribers last night. All of you, except, of course, for CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, who probably owes me about 25,000 subscribers. But the rest of you, thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate all your comments, all your tweets, all your emails. I try to respond to as many as I can. I appreciate and love all of you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Now, if you know already, you know. But if you're new to my channel, you're about to find out today that we celebrate everything around here with cake. And today is no different. We're celebrating with patriotic surprise cake. Look at that bad boy from blameitonthebento.blogspot.com. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the most sweet ass cake you're ever going to see in your life today. And I'm going to explain why. Number 1, it's cake. Number 2, it appears to be red velvet cake. And I like red velvet cake. Number 3, it's patriotic. So if you think about it, it's your civic duty to eat this cake. And number 4, it doesn't stop at being cake. You see, you cut into this bad boy, and this patriotic surprise cake's like, no, Patriot. I got more awesome waiting for you. Here's some red, white, and blue M&Ms up in your face. Enjoy the M&Ms, Patriot. Carry on smartly. So, grab yourself a piece of cake, say hello to your neighbor, pour yourself some hot coffee, and let's get on some Q. All right, post 1862. Q gives us these 2 pictures. And we've seen these before, 2 completely different looking flags. After all, this one's from the 1933 paramilitary wing of the Communist Party of Germany, and this one's from the 2017 paramilitary wing of the Democratic Party of America. And this one says anti-fascist, and this one says anti-fascist. And this one goes to the right and is a little kinky, and this one goes to the left, not as kinky. This one says action with a K. This one says action with a C. So yeah, I guess I don't see the similarities at all, other than the blaring ones. Q says fake news equals enemy of the people. If all directions of the echo chamber, MSM, state the same thing, even if fiction or false, do most people then consider it true? Yeah, look, I used to travel a lot, and going from airport to airport, it was always just CNN that was on the news. And that was all you would see on the TV. You couldn't get any kind of other choice. And when you think about the masses that they reach that way, just simply by blocking out any other kind of option, you're only going to get one narrative. And if you hear that narrative long enough, even if you know it not to be true, after a while, little elements start to seep into your brain. You start to believe that it's true. And that's exactly what's happened in our nation. And we have so many unhinged people right now because of this. And we're realizing that the ramifications of all this is really, really massive. And it's created groups like this right here, Antifa. Q says, direct communication is critical. Well, that's essentially what QAnon was and is. And here we are using it, and everyone thinks that we're dangerous. Well, let me ask you a question here. I'm going to give you a little poll. So here's my question. Who do you think throws the better barbecue? Let's have a look. Patriots or Antifa? Let's have another look. Patriots or... what am I looking at here? I guess that's Antifa, yeah. This to me looks like they got a color scheme going on. Looks like Easter if it went wrong. Easter went wrong, folks. Whew, let's have another look. Who throws the better barbecue? Patriots. Antifa. Patriots. Or these people. You get the idea. They don't look like a lot of fun. Why is Antifa allowed to incite violence, wear masks, make threats, carry weapons, and physically harm others who oppose their ideology? Yeah, good question, huh? Maybe if the media would at least report it. They don't even have to condemn the behavior if they would at least report it and let people decide for themselves if they think that's okay. But they don't do that, do they? They look the other way. Meanwhile, if you get somebody carrying a red, white, and blue flag down the street, next thing you know, everyone's screaming Nazi at them. Everyone's screaming racist at them. Everyone's screaming bigot, misogynist, whatever. Why does Antifa attempt to justify such violence by labeling the challenger as alt-right or Nazi? Because Antifa can't go walking out saying, I'm going to whoop me some patriot ass today, right? No, they got to call them Nazis. They got to call them racist. They got to call them something, right? This looks like a bunch of patriots to me. Look at that. Look at that. I see all kinds of people there. Whole bunch of them. Probably enjoying their weekend. That's what it's all about. Well, why did they do that? They know that if they call us Nazi, at least they can kind of project some sort of criminality. And you know, you've got probably your own friends, whether it's on social media or in your own personal life, maybe even your family, that the first thing that they see when they hear the word white, when they hear the word patriot, when they hear the word president, when they hear the word USA, Constitution, they start throwing the keywords around, don't they? It's an incredible time that we live in. Very extreme. Why doesn't the left condone such acts of violence and call for an immediate end? Yeah, I thought you were the left. I thought you guys were the anti-war. The anti-war left, right? Whatever happened to that? Why wouldn't you call for an immediate end? Define projection. Well, we know what projection is. Just assume that whatever they're calling you is what they're very guilty of themselves. Define insurance policy. Well, an insurance policy is to make sure that something doesn't happen. And for a long time, the DNC, the Democratic Party, as well as a lot of Republicans as well too, I should say deep state DC knuckleheads, had insurance policies against each other. And we saw this in Hollywood. We've seen this in sports. We've seen it in the music, entertainment industry, whatever. These people get these insurance policies against them. And basically, essentially what it is, you know, you start climbing the ranks wherever you are, whether it's in the world of sports or entertainment, politics, and somebody's got to get the goods on you. And they get the goods on you, whether it's a picture, an incriminating picture or an incriminating video or audio, whatever it is. And that's how they make sure that you never speak of what's really, really going on behind closed doors. Define warning against attempts to unveil. Well, that's about to happen, isn't it? And we've seen a ton of warnings. We've seen it online. We've seen it on TV. We've seen it in veiled threats, veiled tweets for our politicians and a lot of our, high-profile mediaites. They prey on emotionally unstable, helpless individuals and use them as pawns. Yeah, look, I don't want to be mean. I'm just not seeing a whole bunch of stable around here. Okay, that doesn't look stable to me. How about that? Does that look stable to you? Look at this guy in the middle. Does that look stable to you? Like Q says, they prey on emotionally unstable, helpless individuals and use them as pawns. And nobody should be used as pawns. Incidentally, nobody should be used as prawns either. Prawns are good. Q goes on to give us this Fox News link right here. And this is from back in December 1st, 2017. FBI probe of Antifa ideology underway, Ray tells House panel. The FBI is investigating people inspired by kind of an Antifa ideology, Bureau Director Christopher Wray said Thursday. Wray told members of the House Homeland Security Committee that people associated with the so-called anti-fascist or Antifa movement were subject to the FBI probe amid possible violent criminal activity. While we're not investigating Antifa as Antifa, that's an ideology and we don't investigate ideologies. We are investigating a number of what we would call anarchist extremist investigations where we have properly predicated subjects of people who are motivated to commit violent criminal activity on kind of an Antifa ideology, he told the House panel. Wray said the FBI was investigating about 1,000 domestic terror cases and were all based on threats rather than ideology, opinion, or rhetoric. He added that out of 1,000 open domestic terror investigations, all are focused on actual physical threats. Antifa has gained prominence since last year following the violent clashes across the U.S. on university campuses and other gatherings. The loosely connected left-wing group of Antifa supporters has been criticized for using coordinated violence against people they deem to be espousing far-right ideology. Federal agencies reportedly warned in 2016 about the possible outbreak of violent clashes or domestic terrorist violence perpetrated by the anarchists. Okay, so this is pretty interesting stuff because this article came out December 2017, and it just said down here that federal agencies warned back in 2016, almost as if they knew this was going to spout right up, right? This goes on here to talk about specific rules. Wray stressed on Thursday that the FBI was not pursuing members of the far left group because of their association with the group, saying there must be credible evidence before the Bureau can open an investigation. So it looks like Christopher Wray's been working on this Antifa thing for a while. Now, Q goes on to say, what does Wray know and when will he release to the public? Does such violence, extremism justify National Guard deployment in the future ahead of planned public releases? Well, I'm not really sure, but I don't think it takes a brainiac to know that this Antifa thing is more than obvious. It is a Soros-funded bunch of knuckleheads that don't really have any kind of political ideology. Like Q says, they prey on emotionally unstable, helpless individuals. These are people that just want to cause some violence. They got something to say. They don't exactly know what it is, and the only way they know how to act out is violent. And it is. It's sad, and it shouldn't be that way. Unfortunately, it is, and those are the very people that they prey on. And they get them to join these groups to get them so very much the gang mentality, give them that sort of family they maybe don't have at home or feel disenfranchised from or whatever. Well, does such violence, extremism justify National Guard deployment? I sure hope not, but it looks like it could be going that way. It looks like maybe Wray knows something is coming down the pipe. Now let's go to this next link right here. Excuse me. Left-wing Antifa terrorists freaking out over proposed unmasking law. The left-wing terrorist organization that calls itself Antifa is freaking out over a proposed law that would enhance penalties for anyone who injures, oppresses, threatens, or intimidates any person while wearing a disguise or mask. Throughout our country and for a number of years now, and primarily because the establishment media fantasizes about, promotes, inflames, and approves of the violence committed against the right, naturally HuffPo opposes the unmasking law. Antifa has been allowed to run rampant, committing countless acts of violence against everyday peaceful supporters of President Donald Trump. We've seen a lot of this lately. And Antifa seems to be the group kind of leading the charge. And as you can see right there, there's a real charmer there. I'm sure Mom must be real proud. So this brings up some interesting questions that I'd like to pose to you. Let me take you a little bit further down here, where it says, unless it is Halloween, Mardi Gras, or some other kind of celebration, there is no legitimate reason to disguise who you are in public, unless you intend to do something illegal and do not wish to be identified. And since our establishment media chooses to encourage, stoke, dismiss, foment, downplay, and excuse harassment, violence, and property damage against Trump supporters, since the media are normalizing and even making heroes of violent left-wing thugs, it is important that law enforcement have all the tools necessary to stop this epidemic of lawlessness. Nevertheless, people are still freaking out. Carmichael Monaco, a member of the Metropolitan Anarchist Coordinating Council, a New York City-based activist group, told Vice Tuesday, The unmasking law takes a pro-fascist stance in its very name and doubtlessly in its enforcement. In the current political climate, anti-fascists who speak out against fascism, racism, xenophobia, etc. are routinely harassed, threatened, and attacked by the far right, often supported by the police, who are notably exempted here. Families and friends of anti-fascists also become targets of far-right violence. The wearing of a mask is an act of self-defense, often necessary to ensure one's right to free speech. Okay, well, we clearly know that that's not true. That's the classic projection that we're talking about right here. These very people are the ones that are screaming out the words fascism, racism, and xenophobia, and they're the same people attacking our cops and anybody who's white or wears a red, white, and blue shirt or a MAGA hat or whatever. So we see that, but my question to you is this: how do you feel about this moving forward? Obviously, unless it's Halloween, Mardi Gras, or some kind of celebration like they're talking about here, is there a legitimate reason to wear a mask? Now, as a civil libertarian, I tend to not really love these kinds of laws that who knows how it could kind of turn against us in the future. However, there clearly is a problem here. So my question to you is simply this: how do you tackle an issue like this and still keep our civil liberties intact? Is it okay for this young man to be walking around covering his face like that, considering he's beating someone over the head with a stick? Now, I'm not saying to him personally or whatever, but if we go back to this article here, like Christopher Wray said, they're not investigating the ideology. They're investigating what seems to be some sort of conspiring to violence or whatever. They need to have some sort of reason there. So what are your thoughts on this? I'm really, really curious, because I have to say I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm conflicted. I just, I do feel that people should have a right to wear a mask. It, in a way, is, this sort of can protect your self-defense. I understand that whole idea. But is it okay to go around wearing a mask and beating people? I think really the big part of it is whether or not you're beating on people or not is essentially not okay. And if you are, it definitely seems like you would want to wear a mask and protect yourself. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. But it looks like we've got some information coming out, maybe in regards to the funding of this Antifa, and maybe that will expose some of the origins of this. Now let me take you to this last link here. This is from August 17th, 2017, formally recognized Antifa as a terrorist organization. Terrorism is defined as the use of violence and intimidation in pursuit of political aims. This definition is the same definition used to declare ISIS and other groups as terrorist organizations. Antifa has earned this title due to its violent actions in multiple cities and their influence in the killings of multiple police officers throughout the United States. It is time for the Pentagon to be consistent in its actions, and just as they rightfully declared ISIS a terror group, they must declare Antifa a terror group on the grounds of principle, integrity, morality, and safety. And I guess those last few words really kind of nail it home. When's the last time you saw an Antifa rally not turn violent? And I guess that's really the big idea, right? If Antifa were willing to represent themselves intelligently, maybe hold some debate, maybe hold some open discussions, but we all know that's not going to happen, right? After all, take a look at this guy. Does he look like he wants to discuss anything with you at all? I think you get the idea. And then Q talks about this military spending bill. Smile for the camera. Q. We're over here on CNN Politics, and I decided to get CNN involved today because they also fund Antifa, so it's like a theme. The defense authorization bill is named after John McCain, but Trump didn't mention him. Burn! President Trump just signed the National Defense Authorization Act, named after Arizona Senator John McCain, but the president never once mentioned McCain's name or thanked him. We would not be here for today's signing ceremony without the dedicated efforts, without the dedicated members of Congress who worked so hard to pass the National Defense Authorization Act, said Trump, while thanking service members and military leadership. However, he did mention Representative Elise Stefanik, who spoke briefly and represents the district containing Fort Drum, as well as Don Baker, Dan Donovan, Joe Wilson, and Martha McSally. Why this matters? Trump has referenced McCain several times lately on the campaign trail without directly naming him, hitting the senator for his healthcare vote. Trump, who did not serve in the military, has previously attacked McCain's record of service, saying the Vietnam veteran and POW is not a war hero because he was captured. McCain, who is the Senate Armed Services Committee chairman, spearheaded efforts for the bill in the Senate. I am particularly humbled that my colleagues chose to designate legislation of such importance in my name. Serving on the Senate Armed Services Committee has been an incredibly meaningful experience since my first days on Capitol Hill, the ailing senator said in a press release when the bill was passed earlier this month. Okay, so billions of dollars going into this spending bill, and we'll probably get a chance to break that down a little bit later. But for now, it looks like McCain got his money. I'm just not so sure if it's going to go where he was hoping it would go. Looks like it's not going to go to those tunnels in Syria, is it, John? Nope. Say it with me, John. You look sad. Just say it with me. Space Force. No? Come on, say put a little oomph in it. Space Force. All right, he is not amused. Well, it seems to me that this planned public release could very well be the Whopper with cheese, the full presidential D-class of all those DOJ documents. And it's going to be ugly. And Ray knows it, because he knows exactly where Antifa is funded from. Not only Soros, but one of the biggest gangs in the world, our other MS-13, our MSM. And they're funding all of this. They're also going completely buck wild against anyone who is publicly conservative. And now we've got this military spending bill. Could that be putting some money into the National Guard as we get ready for one last round with Antifa knuckleheads? Trying to launch us into some sort of war, I suppose. Well, guess what, knuckleheads? You come with sticks. You better smile for the camera. Q. Let's move on to the next post. 1863. And we're taking again back to this Bill Maher tweet where he's comparing Michelle Bachmann, who's been basically through the ringer. And he likens her to this character from Planet of the Apes. And I seem to remember Roseanne Barr doing something very similar with Valerie Jarrett, except she lost her job. And she went through quite a bit as far as the mainstream media goes. And now, guess who it is? Now it's Sean Hannity. And it's really the entirety of Fox News. And of course, Roseanne's still dealing with it as well. Q's encouraging them to not let this hypocrisy stand. Fight, much more coming. Yeah, it's going to get uglier. And these people are going to need our support. Sean Hannity's been through a lot. Roseanne's been through a lot. And it looks like Fox News is probably also going to get dragged through a lot. And whether you agree with everything Fox News does or whatever, they're one of our best conservative mainstream voices, at least up until now. And we need that kind of, we need something different. We can't have everything sounding like CNN, NBC, BBC. It's all the same thing. And so we're in some interesting times, folks. Much more coming down the pike. And it looks like it's only going to get worse before it gets any better. But at least finally we're going to get some planned public releases, and we'll at least get some truth out, and we can start hashing that out. Let's move on to the next post, post 1864. We're taken to a Sara Carter link, which takes you right here. From SaraCarter.com, 2016 Trump Tower meeting looks increasingly like a setup by Russian and Clinton operatives. You don't say. The 2016 Trump Tower meeting between high-ranking members of the Republican presidential campaign staff and a Russian lawyer with Kremlin ties remains the cornerstone of claims that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to steal the election. A growing body of evidence, however, indicates that the meeting may have been a setup, part of a broad effort to tarnish the Trump campaign involving Hillary Clinton operatives employed by Kremlin-linked figures and Department of Justice officials. This view that the real collusion may have taken place among those who arranged the meeting rather than the Trump officials who agreed to attend it is supported by two disparate lines of evidence pulled together for the first time here: newly released records and a pattern of efforts to connect the Trump campaign to Russia. The first line of evidence includes emails, texts, and memos recently turned over to Congress by the Department of Justice. They show how closely senior Justice Department officials and the Federal Bureau of Investigation worked with employees of Fusion GPS, a Washington-based research firm reportedly paid $1 million by Clinton operatives to dig up dirt on the Trump campaign. The reveal that then Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr, the fourth highest ranking official at DOJ, coordinated before, during, and after the election with Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, who did work for the Clinton campaign and Russians, and former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele, who was employed by Simpson. Those emails, which disclose the topics of discussion but not their details, revolve around two business executives, Donald Trump and Oleg Deripaska, a Russian aluminum magnate close to President Vladimir Putin. Steele was particularly interested in resolving issues concerning Deripaska's U.S. visa, which was revoked in 2006 because of his suspected ties to organized crime. In another sign of the overlapping strands of this story, when special counsel Robert Mueller was running the FBI in 2009, the Bureau had asked Deripaska to contribute millions of dollars to help locate former FBI agent Robert Levinson, captured in Iran in 2007 while working for the CIA. Levinson remains missing. The Orr-Steele-Simpson correspondence appears to include references to the former British spy's work for Fusion GPS on Trump's ties with Russia. Months before the election, Steele wrote Orr to say that he would be back in Washington soon on business of mutual interest. The cozy relationship was bolstered by the fact that the wife of the senior DOJ official, Nellie Orr, was employed by Fusion GPS. All right, so it looks to me like we've got some more documents. And I'm almost wondering if it has anything to do with that plane that landed in Little Rock. Although that had a lot to do with the Clinton campaign, I'd be very, very curious to see what kind of documents we're going to start seeing come this week. But I have a feeling we're in for a very, very big week. Now, this is a long article, so I'm not going to cover the whole thing for you. But essentially, like I was saying yesterday, opening up the narrative on this Bruce and Nellie Orr part of the story really busts this wide open, because this doesn't show just necessarily kind of these roundabout connections. It shows direct connection to Christopher Steele. And we all know that he's up to drumming up this Steele dossier and that it was no good. And we know that it was funded by the DNC. Now, it's been really, really easy for me to sit here and convince you, the listener, of that. But being able to convince somebody who is still going after Trump, not so much. Well, these documents must bust it wide open. And I have to think it's got to be something even more damning than that. But once again, here we have more evidence of the real collusion. I'll let you read the rest of this here. But, you know, it just brings to mind the thought that here's this guy right here showing up every single day. Can you imagine going to work every single day and having so many people trying to sabotage every single move? Meanwhile, worrying about your own personal safety. Everybody's trying to bamboozle you. Everybody's trying to spy on you. Everyone's trying to trick you or lead you into some sort of, whether it's a perjury trap or catch you on camera saying something. Can you imagine that kind of daily scrutiny in the highest public office in the land? It really puts things into perspective, and it makes me thankful that we've got, at least for now, the right man for the job in Mr. President Donald Trump there. Those are your Q posts. Let me move you on to this story. We're going to stay over here on SaraCarter.com, the real reasons Peter Strzok was fired from the FBI. There are certainly more than just the anti-Trump text messages sent by former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok that led the second-in-command at the FBI to fire him. FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch actually overruled a recommendation by the Bureau's Office of Professional Responsibility, the OPR, to suspend and demote the former senior agent, and instead terminated Strzok on Friday. But what could have led FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch to make the decision to overrule OPR? Why didn't FBI Director Christopher Wray take charge and fire Strzok himself? And more importantly, why would OPR recommend Strzok, who was charged with handling the investigation into alleged collusion between President Trump's campaign and Russia, only receive a 60-day suspension and demotion? In a statement to SaraCarter.com on Monday, the FBI said Mr. Strzok was subject to the standard FBI review and disciplinary process after conducted highlighting in the IG report was referred to the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility. OPR reviewed the investigative materials as well as the written and oral responses of Mr. Strzok and his counsel and issued OPR's decision. An FBI spokesperson said, the deputy director, as the senior career FBI official, has the delegated authority to review and modify any disciplinary findings and or penalty as deemed necessary in the best interest of the FBI. Look at his smarmy little face there. He's like, former FBI special agents, some of whom worked with OPR for years, said they agree with Bowditch's decision. They told SaraCarter.com that the system is broken, and Bowditch had no other choice but to step in and fire Strzok. They said political leanings, friendships, and dual systems of justice inside OPR have plagued how cases regarding FBI agents are adjudicated and handled. Strzok was under oath before Congress, and he made statements that appeared to be false and refused to answer some questions, but he was going to get just a slap on the wrist, said a former supervisory special agent from OPR Adjudication, who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the nature of their work. There is absolutely no wiggle room when it comes to lack of candor in the FBI, unless you're a SES, Senior Executive Service. Strzok's firing went well beyond texting about Trump. Strzok would have also been involved in the handling of the FISA Intelligence Surveillance Act application to the FIC, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. The agent noted that Strzok was well aware that he was lying by deception when they did not include the information on who paid for the dossier, and that Bruce Orr was back-channeling information for a discredited source. Strzok knew they were not putting the application in the right context. The former FBI supervisory special agent added, if there was the slightest doubt, if that application was not 100% true, then that application would not go forward. So, some really great news. Finally, this guy is no longer collecting a paycheck. Look at me. Look at me. See, you can't even look at me, you smarmy little thing. You were being so smarmy because you thought you were just going to get a little suspension, didn't you? Thought you were going to go on a paid holiday. Well, grab yourself a Diet Coke, bro, because you're going to have to update your CV. Well, this is interesting indeed. And one of the interesting things that I take away from this is that he wasn't fired by Christopher Wray. Right here, they ask, why didn't FBI Director Christopher Wray take charge and fire Strzok himself? Well, we can see that Christopher Wray is a little bit busy, right? We talk a lot about Wray. We talk a lot about Sessions. We talk a lot about Huber, Horowitz, right? Outwardly, they look like a bunch of bumbling idiots. But we all know that they're pretty busy right now, pretty wrapped up. And of course, if Wray fires him, I imagine it'll look like another sort of political witch hunt. Instead, this David Bowditch, who is basically number 3 at the FBI, who would have been the guy right behind Andrew McCabe, he's the one that's going to fire him. And he's very well liked within the FBI. He's also mentioned in the Comey emails. There's Comey correspondence with him regarding Loretta Lynch and the Tarmac. So this should be very interesting. Now, Bowditch could be called to testify by Robert Mueller. I'm not sure if that will happen, but he could be called in relations to the allegations that Trump asked Comey to back off Flynn. And that also raises the question, too, now about General Michael Flynn, now that this knucklehead has been fired. What's going to happen to Flynn? Remember, Flynn's his sentencing has been delayed over and over again. How will that affect General Flynn's sentencing? I imagine things are shaping up pretty good after all. We see this guy has now lied, and because of Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr's communications, we're going to see exactly what happened, and everything that he said means nothing now. He's fired. So, really, really interesting things happening here. I'm going to be very curious to see what happens with this David Bowditch. I can't help but think that it's going to be very, very hard for anyone to complain about this sort of firing, considering such a popular guy as Bowditch is going to be doing the firing. I can't help but think that was the personal strategy going on there. Not really sure. I'm not sure if David Bowditch will end up testifying or not, but like I said, he is mentioned in those emails. Maybe we're going to get some correspondence coming out as well in regards to the Tarmac tapes. So let me know what you think, but good news is in the land because Peter Strzok got canned. And finally today, I leave you with this tweet from Representative Jim. I'm not trying to wear a jacket, Jordan. Strzok fired today. Never forget. Director Comey fired. Deputy Director McCabe fired. Chief Counsel Baker demoted, left. Chief of Staff Rubicki left. FBI Counsel Page demoted, then left. Deputy Director of Counter Intel Strzok demoted, fired. Never seen a federal agency where that's happened. Almost sounds like a Q post, doesn't it? And remember, Q mentioned before that Bruce Orr was a cooperating witness. Should be some good stuff coming down the pike. It won't be as fast as we like, but it is coming. Enjoy the winning, boys and girls. That's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I am also over here on Gab at In Pursuit of Truth, Real.Video, as well as BitChute. And you can always find me here at the Twitter at IPOT1776, where I spend a lot of my time trying to talk to you guys as well too. And also my email, as well as my Patreon link if you want to support the channel. All those links are down below in the video description. All right, kids, that's all I got for you. There's a lot of love for you here. And until next time, this is Sir Patrick Mack. Stay optimistic.